Well, okay. The title today is sort of Love Part One, the power of love, and then we'll also talk about the practice of love, uh, and that's really what the second what the Dancing with Spirit. We're really going to go to town on that, but today we'll just sort of get into it a bit. And I'm going to try to make this one shorter than the last one. uh, which we became about 50-minute talk. So today it's very simple. We got something old, we got something new, we got something borrowed, and something blue. That's the structure. And for I should have said for you guys who are maybe here for the first time, our structure here for the 90-minute heart-to-heart meeting is a talk in the beginning, and then we go into silence for meditation. And then at the end, we have a community conversation. So three parts, all three meditational forms, but just different forms. Okay. So talking about the power of love and something old. Well, we had something old there. If you were listening, you're here at the beginning because we had the Beatles singing "All You Need Is Love." So this is an old poem that I wrote one day. I wrote it on the back of my lunch bag when I was still teaching in junior high, and I was at the faculty table, and I was it just occurred to me uh, that the Beatles were wrong when they sang "All You Need Is Love," which sort of raised the hackles on the back of my neck, being from that generation. But there was a kind of breakthrough. I was teaching the Gospel of Mark as a junior great book at the time, getting into trouble, by the way. Every time I taught the Gospel of Mark as a great book, I got into trouble in this Catholic school. Go figure. But maybe that's really the point. So this is I said I ought to be able to. Mark is the shortest of the four Gospels, but I ought to be able to put the gospel, boil it down to something I can put on an index card and put in my pocket, just so I'd never forget it. And so this became known as the micro gospel. And I didn't have a pen, which is against my religion. And so I had to go over to the first grader table, or maybe it was a kindergarten, but they were coloring. I said, can I borrow a crayon? And so they gave me, I said, let me have the black one, so they gave me the black one. So I wrote this in black crayon on the back of my lunch bag. Micro gospel, the little gospel, but the seed of the gospel, micro gospel. The Beatles were wrong when they sang, "All You Need Is Love." There is no need, no need. All there is love and our resistance to it. I'll repeat that again because it's it's a micro poem. The Beatles were wrong when they sang, "All You Need Is Love." There is no need, no need. All there is love and our resistance to it. So that's what I wanted to start with, because when we're talking about love, love, like every other word in the English, in the American English language, is sort of been destroyed. They use it so many different ways. They use it profanely. We started with the picture of the real Pope and the fake Pope next to one another. And just in a culture where you could do something like that, and that was not like somebody hacking, it was actually out of the White House. When you're in a culture like that, that's why words tend to have no meaning anymore. So I want to talk about doing a little defining of what it means to be, what it means to when you say love, and why the Beatles were wrong. The Beatles were wrong when they sang "All You Need Is Love." There is no need, no need. All there is love and their resistance to it. Now, if they were wrong because they could have, if they could have changed need to are, they'd be right on the money. But they meant well. The whole culture of that time meant well. There was the generation, a love generation. But if you miss it by a hair or an inch, you miss it by a mile. And if you think you need it, then you're looking for it. Then you got to have it. But if you think you are it, which is what the mystics in all the traditions uh, that are really traditions worth looking into and worth owning as your own traditions. All the traditions would say all you are is love in a number of ways, but it's essentially, and certainly one of my favorite poets, Rumi, uh, that's what he said. All you are is love, and that's what Jesus said. Yeah. So a couple of big hitters, heavy hitters, cleanup hitters. Yeah, all you are is love. So there's no need. It drops need, it drops need out, and that's a huge thing when you think about it. That's why in poetics you got to be precise, and if you say all you need is love, you're going to be doing what you need to get it. Thus, the whole Enneagram, which shows you all the hustles for love. You see, so there's only love. All there is love, but the key, the kicker is, and human beings' resistance to it. A good question, which is, will be one of the great koans of modern life anyway, is um, why we resist love. Why we even resist the idea that we are love in sort of a slow mo coagulated flesh and blood and bone form. Yeah, so that's the old poem. That's guided me for a long time, and I need it all the time. I need it in my pocket because I all of a sudden I forget. Uh, that's sort of our gift, Homo amnesians. We can forget the most profound thing, that you are already the power of the universe in this form. The question is, what do we do with it? That becomes the power of love. Okay, it didn't mean romance. Yeah. Doesn't mean love of power. We use the word love. Love is a Subaru. I mean, we've destroyed it. But the idea of love, I want to get into that. And that's something new. This is a new poem from this week, and it's called The Practice of Love. See, the Beatles is a love. I love the song. There's love again. The Beatles were proclaiming something. And you can proclaim love all you want. Honey, I love you, you know, and on and on. But if you don't practice love, you know, between the idea and the reality fall the shadow. And if you have this idea of love and whatever it is, might be a little twisted or it might be straight, but if you just proclaim it and never practice it, hmm. So this is called the practice of love, and this is a bit longer, and I want to tease out a few things for you, uh, and it'll be in the notes if you want them. The practice of love. Love is not an emotion. The love we're talking about when we're talking about the power of love. Love is not an emotion. Emotion comes and goes. Love is not a noun. Love is a verb, a dynamic energy that moves the sun and all the other stars, as Dante put it. But for humans, love is a practice. So love is not an emotion. Love is not a noun. Buckminster Fuller said God is a verb. Love is a verb. Dynamic energy. It's energy. It's a dynamo of energy that built the whole universe. It's huge. It moves the sun and all the other stars. Dante said at the end of the Divine Comedy. But for humans, I mean, our point as a contemplative community living in a world as it is, love is a practice. For humans, love is a practice. The wisdom and compassion, the peace and the joy, this one love that we are, the world can't give it, and the world can't take it away. But the world can distract us from the way we're all born to live. This wisdom and compassion, this peace and joy, this one love that we are. Love is this four-letter word, a sound. Love is a word we give to the ultimate power in the universe. And this ultimate power spokes out just like a mandala, just like the center of the mandala is love. And then those four parts, north, south, east, west, that you always have in a mandala. Well, love, manifests as wisdom, as compassion, as peace and joy. Okay, you can't get these things from the world, and they can't really take it away because this is your internal wiring. One of the guys who's here for the weekend with Elizabeth is a biotech nano kind of engineer. So he's studying the very smallest parts of our own biology, getting into the DNA at Duke. He's at Duke, and thinking of leaving, by the way, because of the cutbacks and because he's a Pakistani. But anyway, he's looking into the very essence of the power of how it manifests. Love manifests through DNA. Here we are, you know. But wisdom, compassion, peace, and joy. These are the main four manifestations of this mandala of love. And the world can't give it to you. It's already wired in. And if you've been reading the whole brain living, it's in your right brain, all four of those things, because your right brain is the connection to the one love that what Einstein was looking for, what Rumi called love, the unified field of love. And it's already in you. It's in your right brain. That's the kind of internet connection to where you can connect to wisdom, compassion, peace, and joy. And the world doesn't give it to you, and the world can't take it away. It can distract you from the way we're all born to live. It's in the wiring, you see. Uh, so part of the practice is once you realize that, because the next moment I'd be judging somebody, cussing them out, giving them the finger, in the parking lot. Did somebody cut you off or on the road? So this is a kind of basic practice now of love. Love life itself with all your heart and soul and mind. Love life itself. You could say love God too. Well, it's the same thing. You could say love, same thing. Love life itself with all your heart, soul, and mind. And love your neighbor and your enemies as yourself. No exceptions. That's practicing the way of love. And that's the only way you can manifest its infinite healing power. So this is my own sort of remake of the famous time where they tried to trap Jesus into making a mistake. And they said, well, out of the 10 commandments, what's the best? Well, he sidesteps the whole thing. And he talks about love, which is not in the commandments. It ought to be. And they said he said 2 commandments, but really it was 1. Love life itself. Love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And love your neighbor and your enemies. That's the tough one. Love your neighbor and your enemies as yourself. Well, what is he talking about there? Well, not like yourself, I contend. Your neighbors, your enemies, you're not separated. It's not like yourself. You love your neighbors and your enemies as yourself. We're all connected. That's what Jesus is talking about. He uses in John the idea of the vine and the branches. Even if you're doing some horrible things, or even if some people appear to be our enemies and maybe they think we're their enemies, a lot of people who think if you're a progressive and you want to really give health care for everybody, that they'll call you whatever. They'll call you a socialist or communist or whacked out liberal or whatever. And it could just the other way around. If you're progressive, you might consider MAGA folk your enemies. That's a mistake. You love life itself with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor and your enemies as yourself. Well, that's tough. This is a tough practice. No exceptions. I wish they had put that in actually in the new, and wish they had put that in the New Testament, but no exceptions. No, well, that guy over there, I mean, he's just too evil. I can't love him. Well, it doesn't mean you agree with him. Doesn't mean you're at all. It just means he's a human being. He's made in the image of love. He has love at its very center, totally blocked maybe, but you're not going to get there by hating them or belittling them. You really aren't. So no exceptions. Now that's a tough practice. Even the apostles said, "Who could do this?" But Jesus stood his ground. He said, "No exception." Even when he was crucified by the empire on an imperial cross, uh, he wasn't blaming anybody. It was just love, and that's practicing the way of love. The word Christian actually didn't. It wasn't what they called themselves. They said we practice the way of love. They were the practitioners of the way. And that's really the final two lines, and that's the only way you can manifest love's infinite healing power. We need something that has the power to heal this brokenness. We're living in an empire that's breaking people down, not just in our country, but all over the world. We're breaking the ability of the environment. And we're breaking the ability for, even though there's more than enough food being produced in the world to feed everybody, so many people are starving, and sometimes starvation is used as a political weapon of war that's going on in Gaza now. So, yeah, that's the practice, and it's a tough practice. And people will tell you you're naive. Well, you'd be naive if you thought the Beatles were right. But the fact that we are this source, we have this power in us to heal, and that's why this is the key to talk about. If you're in a spiritual, interspiritual community like this, we have the power to heal not only our own brokenness, but the brokenness of our neighbors, and even the brokenness of the enemies. This is a big vision. And it's not patting everybody back and hugging everybody. It's a powerful practice and a tough practice. So uh, one of the age old things we've been working on is what gets in the way of love, essentially love melting into love. And the answer is thinking, not thoughts. That's not a problem, but thinking about thoughts. And then, if you've been reading into the whole brain living, we have the whole left brain that's logical, uses words, thought, and we even have coming in from the Renaissance and the Enlightenment. I think, therefore I am. That's wrong. I am, therefore I think. But when you buy the other propaganda, I think, therefore I am. Well, then going into where we're going now, which is into meditation, is that's a tough practice too. Here's something borrowed from T.S. Eliot. I mean, what makes meditation so tough? Well, I think, therefore I am, and to give up thinking for 20 minutes. Not thought, because thoughts keep coming and going until you're flatlined, So that there's no problem with thoughts. It's when we grab onto them and during the 20 minutes, and then we're out of awareness and we're into something very smaller, which is thinking. T.S. Eliot says this in the Four Quartets. In the face of meditation, when the bell rings and you're just supposed to just make awareness your master and thinking the servant. The thoughts, no problem, but but when you catch yourself thinking, you just lay it aside and go back with the breath or whatever tool you use, just to being there. Time, now is the primary thing in meditation. Time is secondary. I'll set the old timer here for 20 minutes. And then being is your purpose during this. And doing will flow from it. We'll talk about that. This connection between being and doing, as opposed to doing and being secondary. No, in meditation, being is primary. You make being your purpose, and doing flows from it. Well, Elliot in the Four Quartets, he's constantly going back and forth in this range, and he's talking about how hard it is to just sit in meditation. And he said, you're doing it in the face of the growing terror of nothing to think about. And that's what prompts us to latch onto some thought and just think about it for these 20 minutes. I once went to a session for 5 days with my Dutch Zen master, Hans Konen. And in our last go round, after we're done, but sort of an integral period, this one guy said, because we were sitting triples, we'd sit for 20 minutes, walk, 20 minutes, walk, and then sit for, so a triple is three, basically an hour in silence. And this poor guy, uh, he said, well, I sort of figured out on the first day that I needed three thoughts. And during the first sitting, I would think about that thought. And then during the second sitting, I would think about the second thought. And then the third sitting, I'd think about the third thought. And the look on Hans's face was a mixture of horror and compassion. He said, well, my friend, I'm sorry, but you've wasted your time. And though I felt bad for the guy, but he had to tell him, don't do this, because that's thinking. It's not meditating. That's not connecting with the bigger, higher power. No. It was, so this growing terror of nothing to think about. And Elliot goes on, he says, I said to my soul, be still and wait without hope. That's a huge insight into meditation. I said to my soul, be still and wait without hope. In other words, being is it. Just, you're not hoping for this, enlightenment or anything else. So much of sitting, and I've done more than 50 years of it, is just you're sitting there and nothing happens, apparently. There's plenty going on internally. Suzuki told us at the very beginning, he said, don't think you know what's happening when you sit on your little black cushion. He was talking about a different kind of trust. But Elliot's got something also that's very unique. He said, I said to my soul, be still. And if you've been into Jill Bolte Taylor's The Four Characters Within You, the we inside of me, one of them is the soul, character 3. And actually, characters 3 and 4 is what goes in play, the soul and your connection to the spirit. That's what we're sitting in. And then character 1, really, we can take a break. There's nothing to be worried about. There's not a survival issue here. So just go, sort of go into snooze alert there, or snooze, a view, and then just let me go into the soul and the spirit during this 20 times. I said to my soul, be still and wait without hope. Yes, that's the borrowed part. Now the blue part, blue is the healing color in Buddhism. The medicine Buddha is always in blue. We're blue today, all the colors really, but blue because that's actually why you meditate, because there's inner healing happening all the time. Don't think you know what's going on when you sit on your little black cushion or on your chair like I'm sitting. You don't. And so when it appears like you're sitting there and nothing's happening, rest in that. We're going to use something different today, but we often use rest in natural great peace, this exhausted mind. Yeah, we're turning off the blender for 20 minutes. This exhausted mind is always trying to figure out everything and get something. See, if you're sitting like this, if you're still and wait without hope, you're out of a transactional relationship you're into a transformational relationship. Love is transformational. It's a power to transform, but you have to give up making it small, like hoping the this or that, enlightenment, hope I'll figure out my current problem and all that stuff. You can sit with a current problem. You just put it on what I call the Trappist taught me this. You put it on the altar of your heart and just leave it there. Maybe you got a big problem now, a big relational problem. Maybe it's money. Who knows what it is? Well, you just put it on your heart put it on the altar of your heart and just leave it there. You don't think about it. You don't try to figure it out. Uh, that's a technique for meditation. But basically, we're going to trust that love, which is we are, and there, it's like these two forces, love, the wave and the ocean, trying to connect. Okay, so we're given time for it to sort of connect, and uh, it is already connected, but we're trying to get rid of the interference. Okay. I tried to tell all the guys next door that all carrying their cell phones around. I said, "Look, you're going to have to be chased for about a half hour here because I'm from 11 to 11:30, which is where we're at right now." I said, "I'm going to be talking, and I don't want to have Jill have to pick up the pieces if I get cut off." So they're keeping their cell phones off for a half an hour. It was a big ask, but so all right. So we're going to. I think that's good enough for the uh, talk, and we'll just shift over to meditation now.